guys, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to another episode of Happy Chirp. So I've been having a lot of mental health professionals this time around, but that's a very conscious decision as well, because I think there's a lot that can be uncovered in this area. There's a lot of awareness that is needed in this area, and obviously क्योंकि acceptability आती जा रही है, the more I want to talk about it, right? Take advantage of that uptake that people are willing to take on this topic. तो उसको maximize करने के लिए I'm trying to have all kinds of mental health professionals and have them talk about what they feel most strongly about, what they've learned in their time in this profession. So today I also have another mental health professional. She's a practicing mental health professional. Her name is Laila Bangash and she is sitting with me here. Hi Laila, how are you?
Hi, I'm good.
Thank you so much for taking out the time to come and speak to me. How are you feeling today?
So I'm feeling excited.
That's good. Yeah. So Laila, we're going to talk a bit about you, how you ended up sort of doing this. Can you tell me where you were born and raised?
So I was born and raised in Pakistan.
In Pakistan? Yeah, which city?
Okay, so previously I was in Peshawar and then we moved to Islamabad. So most of the time in Islamabad, but some of the time in Peshawar as well.
In Peshawar as well, yeah. Are you from Peshawar? Is that where your family is from?
Basically, I'm from KPK. It's a, Hambu area. Not Peshawar, but another KPK area.
Sahi. So where did you get most of your early education from?
Okay, so basically it's both Peshawar and Islamabad. So till metric I was in Peshawar, and then after matriculation we moved to Islamabad. So I did my FSc and then university and masters, everything in Islamabad.
In Islamabad, right. And growing up, what did you want to be?
Okay, so I always wanted. I think it was something that was not my decision, but इर्द गिर्द से आप सुनते हैं ना, so आपको होता है कि अच्छा ठीक है ये चीज़ करनी है. So it was a medical profession कि I wanted to join that. I wanted to go
doctor बनना.
Yeah, exactly. But luckily or unluckily, it didn't happen. And then I think that psychology is something that I believe that psychology chose me.
Acha.
Yeah, because initially because वो medical का ही सारा था, so I was trying for that. But जब वो नहीं हुआ, so I thought कि maybe I should give it a try to psychology. But initially I had nothing in my mind कि मैंने psychology में ये करना है, वो करना है, and nothing. I just joined it with an open mind कि let's see क्या होता है. And then I
where did you join this?
Okay, so I did it from Zebist. Like I did my bachelor's from Zebist, Islamabad. And so उसमें मेरा interest develop होना शुरू हुआ कि अच्छा psychology में ये होता है. And then I did multiple internships. Like कोई भी time ऐसा नहीं होता था जब मैं internship ना करूँ या जो semester break होती थी या उसके बारे में कोई learning ना करूँ. And luckily मेरे इर्द गिर्द जो लोग थे, so they were very supportive in terms of building my interest in psychology. So then eventually आहिस्ता interest develop हुआ. Internship करने के बाद जो है वो finally I completed my bachelor's and then I wanted to do masters. So I was again unsure कि मैंने masters कहाँ से करना है, यहाँ से करना है, abroad से करना है. And then I think that NUST, I joined NUST, but I did not choose NUST. I think again NUST chose me. And I think it was one of the best decisions because वो होता है ना कि sometimes आपने जो plan नहीं किया होता है and that happens to you. So and then later you realize कि अच्छा ये तो बहुत बेहतर था. So इस type का something like this happened. And then फिर NUST में like जो professional एक जो proper education हमें कि हम practice कर सकें वो definitely NUST आपको masters के बाद ही मिलती है psychology में. And it's very important. I think I want to I always highlight this thing कि it's very important कि आपने psychology में people sometimes people think कि it's कोई भी कर सकता है, कोई भी काउंसलिंग कर सकता है या कोई भी इस चीज़ को इसको प्रैक्टिस कर सकता है, बस बात ही तो करनी है. It's a talk therapy, तो बस बातें कर लें. And I have always heard from many people कि सेशन में क्या करती हो, बातें करती हो. So it's kind of sometimes I don't understand how to respond to them because it's a process. So you can't explain the process कि अच्छा इसमें ये होता है फिर ये होता है, and everyone's process is different. So I think it's yes, it is your personality कि हर प्रोफेशन आपकी पर्सनैलिटी के साथ सूट करता है नहीं करता. बट अगेन इट्स अ स्किल एंड यू हैव टू लर्न दैट स्किल. अगर आप वो डिग्री नहीं करते या आप प्रॉपर इंस्टीट्यूट से ट्रेनिंग नहीं लेते तो वो स्किल आपको नहीं आता. एंड फिर आपको लगता है कि बस सिर्फ बातें करनी है एंड देन it doesn't work this way. So luckily and I realized this after joining, like I knew it before, but वो जो होता है ना जो आपके अंदर इंटरनलाइज हो जाती है जो चीज़, वो it happened after joining NUST कि अच्छा ये चीज़ इस तरीके से होती है.
Why is that?
Because I think I don't know, so it's जिस तरह एक MBBS की डिग्री है, so I think जितना MBBS के लिए important है कि because they are dealing with human, with clients, patients, so is that we also deal with the human mind.
Right.
So it's and then जो concepts आपको मास्टर्स लेवल पे, like हमारे एजुकेशन सिस्टम में आपको जो चीज़ें मास्टर लेवल पे पढ़ाते हैं उसके बाद आपको पता चलता है कि अच्छा ये है क्या.
राइट.
बिकॉज बैचलर लेवल पे बहुत बेसिक होता है, वो इतना बेसिक होता है कि आपको लगता है कि अच्छा तो कोई भी कर सकता है. एंड मास्टर्स लेवल पे आपको रियलाइज होता है कि अच्छा ये कोई भी नहीं कर सकता. एंड उसके बाद आपको और फील होने लगता है कि अच्छा इसके बाद भी बहुत कुछ है. So then you plan, like I always like I still want to do PhD. Let's see कि क्या होता है. So इस तरीके से आपको समझ आने लगती है. The more you know about it, the more you learn about it, उतना ही आपको पता लगता है कि अच्छा मुझे तो अभी तो नहीं आता.
And it's so vast also, right?
Exactly.
Like,
It's very vast. तो उसके बाद मुझे and I think NUST में जिस टाइप की ट्रेनिंग होती है और जिस टाइप की वो आपको इंटर्नशिप्स एंड देन ट्रेनिंग करवाते हैं, तो उससे भी आपका बहुत एक्सपोजर आपका जब होता है तो आपको अंदाज़ा होता है कि अच्छा ये चीज़ जो है वो कितनी वास्ट है, कितना इसमें कितना कुछ है जो कि अभी मतलब देयर इज़ नो चांस. आई वुड से दैट देयर इज़ नो चांस ऑफ मिस्टेक. मतलब इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. जिस तरह हमारे लिए इंपॉर्टेंट होता है ना कि हम एक डॉक्टर के पास जा रहे हैं तो द डॉक्टर शुड नो एवरीथिंग बिकॉज
they can't mess up.
Exactly, they can't mess up. So same is the case for us कि we can't mess up, because we are dealing with the human brain. So and it has the talk therapy जिसको हम कहते हैं, like the psychotherapy, it has a very impact on the brain. Like अगर हम लोग उसकी स्ट्रक्चरल उसमें भी जाएं, ब्रेन की जिस तरीके से हमारा ब्रेन और मतलब आई डोंट वांट टू गो इनटू द टेक्निकल टर्म्स, बट बेसिकली जो हमारे ब्रेन के कनेक्शंस हैं, सो उसका भी इम्पैक्ट होता है थेरेपी से.
अच्छा.
सो इसलिए भी इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि जो थेरेपी हो रही है आपकी, आप जिस साइकोलॉजिस्ट के पास जा रहे हैं, जो भी आपका एक प्रोसेस है वो मैसअप ना हो जाए. बिकॉज अगर वो मैसअप हो गया तो आपके कनेक्शंस भी मैसअप होने शुरू हो जाते हैं. लाइक इट्स एन एग्जाम्पल कि अगर फॉर एनी रीज़न आपकी पॉजिटिविटी का कनेक्शन ब्रेक होके नेगेटिविटी का कनेक्शन बनना शुरू हो जाता है तो वो आपका मैसअप हो गया. सो इट्स वेरी मतलब इट्स जस्ट एन एग्जाम्पल. सो इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि आपके कनेक्शंस किस तरीके से बन रहे हैं ब्रेन में भी एंड थ्रू साइकोथेरेपी. सो आई थिंक दैट्स व्हाई इट्स a bit complicated.
It's complicated.
Well.
Yeah. So basically you're saying that कि कोई अगर किसी साइकोथेरेपिस्ट के पास जाता है तो it can go in the wrong direction if the psychotherapist is not
exactly agar like if you think because everyone has different process,
right.
Everyone is a product of their experiences and उनका अपना एक journey चली है.
Right, makes sense.
So it's very important that when you go to a psychologist, the psychologist should be competent in their area. उनकी expertise हो उनकी training हो proper. Then the psychologist will be able to manage or facilitate you in your process.
Right.
If you go to if you just go randomly to anyone एंड देन यू एक्सपेक्ट कि अच्छा इससे जो आउटकम आएगा वो पॉजिटिव ही होना चाहिए, या वो उससे मेरी इम्प्रूवमेंट आए, पर्सनल इम्प्रूवमेंट, या जो भी जिस एरिया में भी आप चाह रहे हैं. सो इट्स नॉट वेरी ईजी.
राइट.
कैसे हो जाएगा?
या सो एवरी लाइक यू हैव टू, मेरे पास पहले भी एक साइकोथेरेपिस्ट आ चुकी हैं. शी यूज्ड टू से कि यू हैव टू गो therapist shopping because not every therapist is like
Exactly.
meant for you, right? तो आपको like you can see like multiple people and figure out कि who works
Exactly.
for you. And I think it's also on the psychotherapist as well, right? Like if they have a client coming in who they feel like, oh, this is outside of my expertise, then they recommend somebody else. Okay?
Exactly, true.
Yeah.
I think this flexibility is also very important, and openness, that if you say, if you see for any reason you are not competent for that specific person, it could be any reason. It doesn't mean that you are not competent at all. It just means that you are not competent in that specific area.
Yes, yeah.
So then it's very important for a psychologist to be flexible and open to refer the client to someone else who is more competent in that specific area. But if you are not flexible, तो it's आप सिर्फ client का harm नहीं करते, I believe आप अपना भी harm करते हो. Because if you are not able to provide that the service
Healing
to the
or
client,
service, yeah.
exactly, the service to the client, or healing to the client, then I think it's a आप पे भी एक pressure होता है, एक burden होता है कि and ये भी आपको सिखाया जाता है, like in the training ये चीज़ें भी आपको सिखाई जाती हैं कि how you can take care of yourself, of when you are seeing clients, how you can be how will you take your process while you are seeing clients. So if a psychologist doesn't know about it, awareness ही नहीं है उस चीज़ के बारे में, या awareness अगर चले है भी but वो practice में नहीं है, so I think it can also complicate things.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So I would like to ask you, okay, what in your opinion, or what is actually a psychotherapist's job? What are they essentially doing for their clients?
Okay.
In its core. Yeah.
Okay, so I think it's agar like if we just see the definition ke psychotherapist ya let's say counselor ya psychiatrist mein kya difference hai, so that's another thing. We can't prescribe medicines, we just do talk therapy. But if we go into a details, then what does a psychologist or psychotherapist do? I think their main work or their main intention is that they facilitate you with your process.
Okay.
Every individual has their own journey. So we don't take charge, like we don't take active charge of the client's life or the process. We empower them to take charge of their life.
Right.
So, we try to inculcate sense of agency in them, ताकि वो अपनी life को, even when they are not in therapy, so they are able to manage their life and restore balance in their life. So I think that's the main thing जो कि we intend to do. We try to do it. And other than that, it's also very important that we take हमने client की pace पे जाना होता है, because it's their process, right?
Yeah, you can't hurry their process.
Exactly, we can't hurry.
They define their pace.
बिल्कुल, exactly. Sometimes people think like we need a quick fix. No, आपको therapy से quick fix नहीं मिलता. Fortunately or unfortunately. Unfortunately इसलिए because you have to go through the whole process. And I think fortunately इसलिए because जब आपको quick fix नहीं मिलता, so you get to know about yourself. And you discover yourself. And long term में उसका effect बहुत positive होता है.
Shortcuts are always, shortcuts का result भी बहुत short होता है. Like this is what I believe. Generally in anything, you can use this in this as well. But कोई भी quick fix, कोई भी shortcut means कि जो उसका result है, that's not long lasting either. Then that's a very unsustainable result. Basically. You can't sustain it. जितना आप उसके अंदर time और effort लगाओगे, then the longer it's going to last. Makes sense. Yeah.
True. And it's also like I know it's a difficult process. Therapy में I मतलब अगर मैं ये कहूँ कि बहुत easy है, no. But if once you decide to you want to take therapy, it's very rewarding. provided ke you are seeing a competent psychologist and you are also involved in your process. ऐसा नहीं है कि बस आपने कहा कि अच्छा बस ठीक है ये एक छोटी सी प्रॉब्लम है तो बस इसको जल्दी से हम ठीक कर देते हैं and then that's it. No. If you are actually involved in your process and आप उसको साथ साथ लेके चल रहे हैं, so it really impacts all areas of your life, not just one. Maybe you are seeking therapy for your maybe professional problem, but it will वो आपको वो खुद ब खुद नज़र आने लगती है आपकी बाकी लाइफ के एस्पेक्ट्स में भी.
Right.
So I believe that it's very rewarding.
Yeah. Like rewarding for the psychotherapist as well, right? Yeah.
Psychotherapist and for the client as well.
Of course.
Exactly.
Yeah.
वो तो है. But psychotherapist के लिए भी it's very rewarding in a way that the satisfaction that we get कि अच्छा the client is improving because of me, because I am facilitating that specific client. So it's very rewarding for you. And I believe कि this is one of the reasons that psychology after joining it clicked. It clicked me because I sensed that rewarding factor. कि अच्छा how rewarding it is, and also the satisfaction that you get from helping someone. So if every profession, I believe every profession has their own benefit. With this profession,
I think you can see your impact, right? तो उसकी बहुत अच्छी feeling
exactly in the society आप जब as a whole देखते हैं तो it's very it gives that satisfaction and that happiness to you.
So I want to ask you, what area do you work in? Like, what is your area of expertise when it comes to psychotherapy?
Okay, so basically I mainly if we talk about the population, then it's mainly adults. I did work with adolescents as well, but currently I'm working with adults. If we talk about the problems,
the kind of work,
exactly. So it's like I've been dealing with my niche is basically emotion regulation, because I believe that emotion regulation is something that's it's a very significant thing, and mainly जो चीज़ें emerge होती हैं वो emotion से ही related होती हैं. So if you know how to manage your emotions and how to regulate it, and if you know the skill, because it's also a skill, and जो कि बहुत शुरू से start हो जाता है. So mostly जो चीज़ें हैं वो तो आपकी address हो जाती हैं. And if you talk about the issues mainly, then I think I dealt with grief and relationship issues, and then the anxiety, depression. There are different forms of anxiety, and I would not say that ye specific disorders, but I would say that these because I believe in not labeling.
I understand.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I tend to see कि अच्छा कहाँ पे क्या problem है, whether it's in the relationship, it's in the family, it's the emotion regulation problem, it's the anxiety, it's the adjustment problem, life transition phases. So it's that.
Okay. And what do you mean by emotional regulation? Can you tell us?
Okay. So for me, it's how much you are aware of your emotions, how much you are connected to your emotions, accepting your emotions,
not staying in denial.
Exactly. And then managing them. So for me, emotion regulation has a few steps.
Okay.
So like I said, that you are aware of your emotions, and then you are connected to your emotions, accepting them, and then you see that how you have to manage them. And I believe that when it comes to managing, so the first three, even jo first three steps bhi hain, they are not very easy. उस पे भी आपको टाइम लगता है उसको अवेयरनेस में, because most of the time we are not aware of our emotions. So and when you do that, like वो 3 steps आपके हो गए हैं, so the fourth step, which is managing, so I think it's different for everyone. हर बंदे का अपना process होता है, so how they want to manage them, but I believe that what is important is you listen to your emotions. What are they saying to you? And what message they want to give it to you. Because every emotion has a message. They are messengers. I was reading somewhere that they are messengers. So it really clicked. Yes, they are messengers. And when you attend to them,
they're telling you something.
Yeah, exactly. They are telling us something. And when you attend to them, आपने उनसे बातचीत कर ली है, and then you will you see a difference कि वो खुद ब खुद settle हो जाते हैं. So I think personally भी, like it's a very personal experience. For me it's personal. So वो खुद ब खुद settle हो जाते हैं. And then it doesn't have a negative effect on you. It has a positive effect. So that's what emotional regulation is for me.
I think अगर आप उनके denial में रहो, if you don't pay attention to them, so you can never learn to manage them. कहते हैं ना किसी भी change के लिए आपको first उस चीज़ को उसके बारे में aware होना होता है, उसको identify तो करें. First, it's so important to be aware of how you're feeling.
Exactly.
And then like you said, connect with it, like feel it,
acknowledge it.
Acknowledge
it's okay if it's coming. Like हमारे लिए होता है कि अब ये तो कोई डिस्कम्फर्ट आ रहा है, ये तो कुछ ऐसी चीज़ है, इसको एंटरटेन नहीं करना, और ये क्यों आ रहा है, क्यों का क्वेश्चन बहुत ज़्यादा होता है कि ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है मेरे साथ.
It's a huge part of yourself that we tend to hush down or ignore because it brings discomfort.
Exactly. And I think even जब आप therapy में भी होते हैं, therapist के लिए भी and client के लिए भी, so it's sometimes the process is painful. Sometimes it's complicated. Sometimes in being as a therapist, sometimes आपको समझ नहीं आ रही होती ये क्या हो रहा है, client के साथ भी क्या हो रहा है. So but I think after this, इसी तरह emotions के साथ भी होता है. Sometimes you don't know कि ये क्या, what emotion is this, and ये क्यों आ रहे हैं और मुझे क्या कह रहे हैं. But when you sit with it and you pay attention to it, attend to it, so it will tell you its purpose.
And it's so important also because if you are not like in touch with your emotions, or if you're not regulating them, then you continue to live life in a mindless way where you continue to react to them because वो हैं तो सही.
True.
But you're reacting to them in a way that's not true to them.
True. That's very exactly. I think this is very important कि emotions आपसे डिमांड कर रहे होते हैं कि how you react towards them. If you learn कि अच्छा मैंने emotions की तरफ एक specific way में react करना है, and if it's not attending, आप emotions को attend नहीं कर रहे, emotions को ये I feel we take it कि emotions को भी एक sense जा रही है कि ये तो मुझे तो attend नहीं कर रही. So if you see अगर हम किसी भी चीज़ को attend नहीं करते तो वो चीज़ तो वो वैसी ही रह जाती है, वो तो वो it gets more complicated. But when you start attending to it and आप उसको वो जो आपसे डिमांड कर रही है, जो रिएक्शन आपसे वो डिमांड कर रहे हैं, and if you give that reaction, तो I think वो mostly वो काम वो वहीं पे हो जाता है.
I'll give you an example from my personal life. So last year I gained a lot of weight because of mental health issues. ठीक है, so I was, whenever I would feel stressed, anxious, or stressed or anxious mostly, then I would eat. ठीक है, so this was my it was my reaction to just like I would just find myself like binging and like splurging and इस तरह से and cravings, right? And somehow I would try to suppress my emotions with this. Eventually, like I realized, okay, so I'm basically doing a lot of emotional eating. Like whenever emotions come up, my solution is kuch kha lo. And I didn't even like know for the longest time that was the like link, right? Like this
was the reaction.
That was the reaction. And ab yesterday, and khair, a long time ago I identified it, then I worked on it क्योंकि मुझे समझ आ गई कि ये problem है. Ab yesterday what happened was that there's a lot happening in my life. Like I'm going through major transition phase. So yesterday I was really sort of in that zone where I was feeling extremely anxious because I'm in that transition phase. But for the longest time that was just coming out as numbness, like I was numb. मुझसे कुछ हो ही नहीं रहा था सुबह से, right? And basically that was me reacting to my anxiety कि इतनी anxious हूँ कि बस freeze हो गई हूँ, समझ नहीं आ रहा where to start from, what to do. And then I was like कुछ नहीं हो रहा, and then I was like, listen, I think I need to sit with myself and क्या मसला है. And I was like, okay, I'm going through a transition and I'm extremely anxious. That is the problem. So that's where you sort of identified कि अच्छा anxiety हो रही है, and I need to address the anxiety if I want to overcome this sort of like numbness that I'm feeling.
Numbness, true.
Yeah, so I sat with myself and then मैंने कुछ दुआएं वगैरह की, and I meditated a bit, and then I felt better, and then I got up and then I started like, because I felt like calmer, and then I started doing.
True.
So I feel like this is an example of regulating.
Yes, exactly. But it's very important. Sometimes it happens that you are so occupied with your routine, with your life, that आपको लगता है emotions को time देना तो अब इसके लिए कहाँ से टाइम निकालें. It happens with everybody. It happens with me as well. Right? But when you see के उसका once you are, okay, so I believe it's something कि if you haven't done it once, like आपने एक दफ़ा भी नहीं किया ऐसा, so you don't know कि how it feels. But आप अगर उसको एक दफ़ा भी कर लें, एक दफ़ा भी आप अपने emotions को attend कर लें, like you said, तो आपको पता चल जाता है कि अच्छा उसके बाद लाइफ कितनी इजी हो गई है.
You to take that like literally 5 मिनट की बात थी.
True.
But then the rest of this day was much better than the first half जिसमें मैंने address ही नहीं किया था उस चीज़ को, right?
That's very true.
So like I worked on my emotional regulation a lot. So this is like one of those examples कि कल भी मुझे feel हुआ था. फिर later रात को, because I obviously वो हुआ, फिर रात को जब टाइम खत्म हो रहा था, एंड हो रहा था, my husband was leaving, he had a flight, तो my anxiety started kicking in again. And then I was like, मैंने खाना खा लिया था, but उस वक्त मेरा दिल चाह रहा था कि मैं कुछ और खाऊं. And then I was like, मुझे क्यों, मैं खाना खा चुकी हूँ. And then I was like, again, it's the anxiety, and I'm again reacting to the anxiety by just eating, right? फिर मैंने अपने आप को बहुत उसमें भी I like sat down with myself, I was like, नहीं, I distracted myself, I thought about it, फिर मैंने दुआएं की and stuff. For me personally, like it really helps to meditate or pray or just sit with myself, or even write. I write as well. That really helps. So and then I was like, no, and then I didn't eat anything. but if I wasn't aware of this, so I would have like just ate.
True. But I believe कि ये awareness आना भी it's a whole different process. Like
it's the first and probably the most important step.
Process. Exactly. अगर वो first step आपका नहीं हुआ तो आगे तो कुछ भी नहीं हो सकता. So if you but I think it हो जाता है if you want to. Like अगर आप if you want to, but sometimes what happens that sometimes आपको यही नहीं पता होता that you are not aware of your emotions because you feel, and because emotions की बहुत layers होती हैं. There are primary emotions and then there are secondary emotions. Sometimes आप secondary emotions feel कर रहे होते हैं.
अच्छा, okay, makes sense.
So and आप उस secondary emotion की तरफ react, आपका एक reaction होता है. But अगर आप उसकी ये वो surface level पे होता है. But अगर आप उसको if you dig deeper, so वो एक primary emotion का सेकेंडरी एक पार्ट है जो कि सरफेस लेवल पे आ रहा है. बट अगर आप एक्चुअल में जिस चीज़ को आपने एड्रेस करना होता है वो आपने अपने प्राइमरी इमोशन को एड्रेस करना होता है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल लाइक आई वांट टू गिव एन एग्जाम्पल कि लेट्स से एंगर, राइट? सो वी फील एंग्री, सो वी से ये तो एंगर है, हाउ टू मैनेज एंगर.
बट एंड यू आर आल्सो रिएक्टिंग टू द एंगर.
एग्जैक्टली, रिएक्टिंग टू एंगर. बट इफ यू सिट विद योरसेल्फ एंड आप देखें तो मे बी एंगर के पीछे exactly hurt हो सकता है, disappointment हो सकती है, sadness हो सकती है. So then you address that, and then you connect to that emotion, that primary emotion, and that's how you go about it. But इस point तक भी reach करना कि अच्छा ये कौन सा emotion है, primary है और secondary है. So it takes time, it takes effort.
And I can also really relate to this one. I remember I wanted to meet a friend of mine. I really wanted to see her. अब ये थोड़ी पुरानी बात है, but उस टाइम पे क्या कहते हैं, anyway whatever, something happened and she couldn't come and she couldn't show up, right? And then I felt really angry and annoyed. राइट, लाइक मुझे गुस्सा चढ़ गया कि इतनी दफ़ा इस तरह हुआ है, लाइक व्हाई इज दिस नॉट हैपनिंग और वर्किंग आउट. एंड देन अगेन आई सैट विद माई सेल्फ फॉर 2 seconds. I was like, listen, you're not angry, you're disappointed. Yeah, because so many times you want and it's not happening, and it's actually like disappointment, right? So this is the perfect example of what you said, and I felt it, and I've been there where I felt the secondary emotion and then realized, oh no,
ये तो primary, exactly. And then you address the primary emotion, not the secondary one.
Exactly. And then my entire sort of reaction or attitude towards the whole thing changed, and instead of like lashing out on her, I said, I really miss you and I'm just disappointed that I couldn't see you today.
And you know what happens then if you communicate your emotion, if you connect to your emotion, तो एक burden होता है जो कि कम हो जाता है. You get a sense of relief कि अच्छा कोई चीज़ थी जो कि मैंने उसको acknowledge कर लिया है, जो कि मुझे बार बार knock कर रही थी, अब मैं उसके लिए दरवाज़ा नहीं खोल रही थी, and अब मैंने दरवाज़ा खोल दिया, so it's done.
And I think that makes sense, right? Because if your diagnosis of the problem is wrong,
true,
right, and then you're trying to solve it, so you will still end up feeling the same because solve तो हुआ ही नहीं, right? आप फिर भी
exactly
घटिया ही feel कर रहे हो.
exactly because we see just events, like हम events देख रहे हैं, like you give an example, friend नहीं आई, you know, so if you tell somebody कि मेरे साथ आज ये हुआ और मेरी friend नहीं आई, मुझे बहुत ज़्यादा गुस्सा आया, तो आपने event बता दिया, ठीक है. अब इसी तरह बहुत सारे दूसरा कोई इवेंट हुआ है, सो वी आर like most of the time ऐसे होता है that we are so occupied in the events, in telling or talking about events कि ये हुआ, फिर ये हुआ, that we forget कि हमने like what it made me feel, and how I felt about it, and what is it जिसके साथ मैंने connect होना है. So it's also very important that, like, I understand that everyone has a busy routine and life, but sometimes event पे focus के बाद it's important that you focus कि event का impact क्या था.
सही.
So you know, it's different impacts हो सकते हैं, and one of the impacts is how you felt about it.
Right.
And वहाँ से आपकी स्टोरी चलती है जो कि आपकी अपनी डिस्कवरी की, जो सेल्फ डिस्कवरी की होती है. सो आई थिंक वो सेल्फ डिस्कवरी वहाँ से ही आती है. सो इट्स a bit tricky.
Yeah, it's tricky.
But I think that it's important. And it's very necessary. And it comes definitely with effort and
with
time.
effort and a sort of like practice in a way.
Exactly, practicing. And if you are willing to do it or not. Because if you are not willing to do something, तो वो चीज़ नहीं होगी.
बिल्कुल.
अगर कोई जिस तरह I have there are some people that I know, so they do have these problems के ये है वो है, and you know, but they, even if they are aware of it कि अच्छा ये क्या है और मुझे कहाँ पे एडरेस करना है, but they don't, you know, they don't
they're not willing
exactly
to make that
exactly
change.
मतलब वो उस चीज़ को they do acknowledge that there is some problem, but they don't acknowledge कि उन्होंने खुद से स्टार्ट करना है. ऐसा नहीं है कि कोई बाहर से एक्सटर्नल फोर्स आएगी and then they will resolve the problem. No, वो अंदर से
basically you have to help yourself first.
True.
Exactly. Like you take the step and then things happen, right? But then you can't things to change if you are not going to change. Like you, like
true.
If things are bothering you, then they're going to continue to be that way until you do something, right? क्योंकि physics का भी एक law है कि अगर एक force है या वो उसी direction में चली जाएगी unless another force
कोई और force
acts on it.
And you know, जो therapy में भी यही होता है, जिस तरह मैंने पहले mention किया है कि basically the client has to take charge of their process. So उसमें भी यही होता है कि if the client is willing to take charge of their process, कि अपने साइकोलॉजिकल वर्क का उन्होंने खुद ही उसको अपने दे आर रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर इट, तो तभी इम्प्रूवमेंट आती है. बिकॉज जो गोल्स भी बनते हैं ना वो खुद डिसाइड करते हैं. साइकोलॉजिस्ट डजंट टेल कि अच्छा हम ये गोल बना लेते हैं. दे फैसिलिटेट यू, दे यू नो, वो आपके साथ गोल बनाने में, गोल बिल्डिंग में हेल्प करते हैं, बट वो गोल आपका अपना ही होता है. एंड इफ यू डोंट फील स्ट्रांगली अबाउट इट कि अच्छा मैंने इस पे काम करना है, तो फिर
कुछ नहीं
वो नहीं होता. लाइक इट्स मतलब उस चीज़ का कोई फायदा नहीं होता, नो मैटर हाउ कॉम्पिटेंट द साइकोलॉजिस्ट इज. सो
the willingness and the work has to come from you.
Exactly. It has to come from you. So it's I think this is how it works.
Okay, so Laila, मैंने भी बीच में mention किया that I'm going through a transition and then मुझे उससे anxiety हुई हो रही है and stuff. So I want to talk to you about that a little, because I think change is something that makes people very uncomfortable, that can be very difficult, right? So can you tell me a bit about that? How transition phases affect people's emotions, and you know how they react to it, deal with it, or how they can, you know, just share your sort of thoughts on this.
Yes, I think even when you mentioned it, तो मेरे mind में ये चीज़ आई थी that sometimes what happens that जब हम किसी भी transition, like major transitions in life, you're getting married, having a child, moving somewhere else, you know, even enrolling yourself in a university for you know, for studies or anything like that. So I think with transition, what happens that sometimes you lose your old self, right? So when you lose your old self, so definitely a lot of things come with it, like in terms of your emotions and how you feel about it. Sometimes you are so connected to your old self कि आप you don't want to lose it.
Yeah.
But then life happens.
Yeah.
So when life happens, you have to like not intentionally, but life में कुछ ना कुछ ऐसे हो जाता है कि आपकी personality या आपकी how you are वो automatically वो चीज़ change हो जाती है. Sometimes you are aware of it and sometimes you are not. Most of the time we are not aware of it. Like because एक अच्छा चेंज आ गया. let's say you are getting married, right? तो बहुत अच्छा चेंज है. अब इससे क्यों मसला होना है, इससे क्यों डिस्कम्फर्ट आना है, या फॉर एग्जाम्पल यू आर हैविंग अ चाइल्ड, या यू आर मूविंग अब्रॉड. सो ये सारे अच्छे चेंजेस हैं. सो इसमें क्या मसला हो सकता है? एंड देन समटाइम्स इट हैपन्स कि आप जो फील कर रहे होते हैं, आपको अपने आप को भी आपको समझाना नहीं आ रहा होता कि एक अच्छे इवेंट पे मैं क्यों ये फील कर रही हूँ. तो किसी और को समझाना तो आई थिंक और भी डिफ़िकल्ट हो जाता है. सो दिस इज these all things are linked, and then you feel stressed out, you feel anxious, you are reacting towards it, and but you are unaware of it कि ये मेरे साथ क्या हो रहा है.
I think it's mostly due to the unfamiliar
true, it could
territory that you're sort of going into, right?
एक unfamiliar सी चीज़ है, एक अनसर्टेनिटी है, स्ट्रेन सी चीज़ है जो कि एक न्यू चीज़ आ गई. आप यू आर लिविंग अ परफेक्ट लाइफ,
कंफर्ट जोन से आप
एग्जैक्टली, एंड फिर उसमें एक चीज़ ऐड हो गई है. तो विच इवन आपने अपनी मर्जी से वो चीज़ ऐड की है एंड यू फील हैप्पी अबाउट इट. But with every change, there are certain struggles as well. कुछ discomfort भी होते हैं. And उसकी वजह से आप, and then you feel, multiple emotions. किसी के लिए वो anxiety होगी, किसी के लिए वो sadness में होगा, किसी के लिए depression में होगा. So everyone has their own process. हर एक के लिए different हो सकता है. But what I strongly feel about it, that it's very important that you understand कि transition होती है. Life में, right?
Life is all about transitions.
First you understand about it and then you acknowledge it कि आपके साथ भी transition हुई है. Because sometimes what happens कि जैसा मैंने पहले भी कहा कि चीज़ें होती हैं आपकी लाइफ में, हैप्पी इवेंट्स होते हैं, लेकिन आप उसको वो इम्पोर्टेंस नहीं देते जो आपने उसको देनी होती है in terms of how you feel about it.
ठीक है, okay.
So when you don't give that importance, अगेन when you don't sit with it कि अच्छा ये चीज़ मुझे कैसे इम्पैक्ट कर रही है, अच्छे तरीके से इम्पैक्ट कर रही है, बुरे तरीके से.
बस आप सिर्फ इवेंट को देख रहे हो.
बस इवेंट को मैंने देख लिया, शादी हो गई, इतनी अच्छी शादी हो गई है, बेबी हो गया है, everything happened very smooth. But how did you feel about it? So most of the times ऐसे होता है कि people come and they say कि मेरी लाइफ में ये मेरे साथ ये हो रहा है, मैं ये फील कर रही हूँ, मैं ये फील कर रही हूँ, लाइक आई फील एंशियस, आई फील मुझसे एडजस्ट नहीं हो रहा, या मैं ब्लैंक हो रही हूँ, या मेरा ये इशू आ रहा है. बट दे स्किप द पार्ट के वो चीज़ कब के बाद शुरू हुई. सो दे स्किप दैट ट्रांजिशन,
राइट,
कि अच्छा लाइफ में इतना मेजर चेंज आया है तो उसके बाद ये चीज़ शुरू हुई है. एंड आई बिलीव दैट it's sometimes it's a grieving process. You are grieving,
your
right?
old life or the person that you were.
Exactly. So you are grieving your old life कि अब वो तो नहीं रही है. And
especially happens in motherhood, like when you first become a mother, you really, because आपकी life इतना change होती है, you really grieve the person that you were before.
Exactly. आपकी life बिल्कुल like एक shift आ जाता है आपकी life में.
Do you have kids? Are you married?
Yeah, exactly. And then you can't go back to your old life.
Of course, things have changed.
Exactly, they have changed. And like जैसा हम देखते हैं कि then there's depression, then there's postpartum, then there are multiple things. So it's very and sometimes जो दूसरे होते हैं ना, उनको ये चीज़ समझाना भी बहुत मुश्किल होता है, what I'm going through. So when they don't understand, like it's a very important thing कि आपका social support कैसा है. जब हम लोग when we
in transitions,
exactly, in transitions and overall otherwise भी, अगर जब हम लोग sessions like therapy में भी we specifically ask about social support. Okay, do you have a social support, like is there anyone that who knows about your condition or something, so that because it's one of the protective factors अगर if you have a good social support, आपका strong social support है, तो आपकी जो condition है, it really the social support really helps in improving your condition. So when the other person, लेकिन अगर unfortunately the other person doesn't understand that she's going through transition, or the specific person is feeling this way because of the major transitions, तो आप खुद एक तो फील कर ही रहे हैं, ऊपर से आपको वो सपोर्ट भी नहीं मिल रहा, लोग अंडरस्टैंड भी नहीं कर पा रहे, वैलिडेट नहीं कर पा रहे एग्जैक्टली कि अच्छा दिस इज हाँ मतलब इट्स नॉर्मल इफ यू आर फीलिंग दिस वे एंड इट्स ओके इफ यू आर फीलिंग दिस वे.
I think one of the invalidation also comes from if you're like getting married, having a child, moving abroad is खुश होने वाली बात है, बस खुश हो, शुक्र करो, right?
Exactly.
And it suddenly invalidates
whatever the other emotions that you are feeling. Because yes, I'm not saying कि ये happy emotions नहीं इससे आते, like ये happy events नहीं है, they are happy events.
But we are humans with a lot of layers.
Exactly.
But like you said, emotions have a lot of layers.
Exactly. But it doesn't mean कि आपके happy events, happy emotion के साथ कोई दूसरा emotion नहीं आ सकता.
नहीं आते, बिल्कुल.
In one situation, you can feel multiple emotions. Yeah. Sadness भी हो सकती है, and excitement भी हो सकती है, nervousness भी होती है.
It's even bittersweet moments.
Exactly. Yeah. True. So it's very important that you understand it, and then other person also understands it. And if we talk about the transition, becoming a parent, या आपकी you getting married, so it's partner का role, I think it's very important with other social support, but it's very important that how your partner, how much support you are getting from your partner. So these are multiple things. And again, ट्रांजिशन में जैसे कि मैंने आई मेंशन कि it's you are going through a grieving process, grief से आप गुजर रहे हैं, so you're grieving. So you need to give time to yourself. It's not कि बस अभी सब कुछ जो है वो ठीक हो जाएगा, and then even after giving some time to yourself, if you think that you're still feeling the same way, then इसका मतलब है कि you need to do more. आपने you need to do something about it.
Right.
Because it's not कि सिर्फ एक इवेंट हुआ है तो उसकी वजह से you are feeling this specific way. Like there are a lot of things जो कि पीछे unresolved रह चुके होते हैं.
और ये एक triggering moment है.
ये triggering moment होता है, exactly. And sometimes what happens in therapy that client आए हैं एक specific issue के साथ, this is the problem, and after a few sessions, like not a few, काफ़ी sessions के बाद, then the client they are able to connect कि अच्छा वो चीज़ थी तो अब फिर वो यहाँ पे हो रही है, and then they make sense of the whole thing कि अच्छा अब ये चीज़ इस वजह से हुई है. So it ये होता ही तब है जब when you understand it कि अच्छा I need to do something about it. अगर खुद से नहीं हो रही है चीज़ resolve, अगर खुद से adjustment नहीं हो रही तो फिर I need to do something about it.
Right.
And you also mentioned about writing.
Yeah.
So I think writing is something that really helps in the transition phase and in otherwise way. So, and writing also helps in getting aware of your emotions. As well. Because sometimes हम जब ऐसी सोच रहे होते हैं तो हमें समझ नहीं आ रही होती what am I feeling, या इसका क्या करूँ मैं. But when you start writing about it, so what happens that आपके mind say you are taking things out of your mind and you're putting it on a piece of paper. So आपके mind में space बननी शुरू हो जाती है new thoughts के लिए and और चीज़ों के लिए और connections बनाने के लिए. So then you realize कि अच्छा ये चीज़ तो ऐसे थी, ये चीज़ ऐसे भी हो सकती है. Clarity
आना शुरू हो जाती है.
Exactly. Clarity आना शुरू हो जाती है.
Clarity of thought.
Exactly. But अगर if there's not enough room, अगर आप like for example आपकी it's a glass के example ले लें, there's enough water, उसमें और पानी आ ही नहीं सकता. तो पहले जो existing पानी है उसको ख़त्म करेंगे तो और पानी आएगा. तो same is how our brain works. आप पहले जो उसमें thoughts हैं उसको आप declutter करेंगे, then you will be able to think clearly and find a solution for it.
Find a solution,
yeah. So I think these are a few things which are important first to, again, it all boils down to being aware of it, accepting it, connecting to it, and then doing something about it.
Yeah.
So that's what my thoughts are, and that's how I feel about it, and I feel strongly about it, the transition phases, because I myself, when I moved to abroad, so it was a happy moment, but there were struggles as well.
Yeah.
So with those struggles,
and I think you grieve your life here and everything that you built here or had here. Yeah.
True, exactly.
Yeah.
And then but life happens, and that's how you move on.
And I think there's so many emotions, right? Especially when you move abroad. So like it's a great thing because it's a great step for your life. But then you also feel a grief for what you're losing, and also guilt. Because जब लोग abroad जाते हैं, so they always have this kind of guilt of leaving their country and their roots. So basically my point is that there's a lot of emotions.
There are a lot of emotions. Sometimes you feel like, okay, I'll spend a few years here and then I'll move back to my own country, So there are multiple thoughts जो कि आपको आ रहे होते हैं, मैंने ये करना है, and then when you, okay, so it's a very different experience when you move abroad. It's it's very difficult to make others understand because वो उस process से नहीं गुजर रहे होते हैं, हम उस process से गुजर रहे होते हैं. So for us it's happy, but at the same time there are other things as well. So you make them understand about the happy part, ठीक है, वो तो खुद भी उनको नजर आ रहा होता है, समझ आ जाती है. But जो difficult moment होता है, जो difficult part होता है, so उससे understand कराना, it's very difficult. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's how.
Can you talk a bit about ethical practice?
Yes. Okay. So I think it's okay. So it's very important, I believe. And ethical practices, if we talk about, again, जैसे मैंने कहा कि competent के लिए, there are certain set of guidelines for psychologists, and we need to follow that. There are AAP guidelines, so we need to follow those guidelines in order to be called ethical practices. And I believe कि वो guidelines तो हमें मिल जाती हैं, but it also depends on the regulatory bodies in any country.
Right.
So if you have that, if your country has regulatory bodies, तो वो follow हो जाती हैं. But if your country doesn't have it, तो फिर वो somehow नहीं हो पाती follow. But what I really liked about NUST is that they, उन्होंने हमारे अंदर इतनी ज़्यादा वो ethical practices डाली हैं that even if there is no regulatory body, suddenly if हम अगर कुछ गलत तो नहीं, लेकिन कुछ जो APA में नहीं mention वो करने के बारे में अगर सोचे भी, so suddenly guilt ट्रिगर होना शुरू हो जाता है. सो आई थिंक इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि आपकी ट्रेनिंग जब होती है तो उन्होंने एथिक्स पे कितना फोकस किया.
आई थिंक ये बहुत फाउंडेशनली इंपॉर्टेंट है टू
एग्जैक्टली फाउंडेशनल है. सो सबसे फर्स्ट स्टेप तो आपकी ट्रेनिंग से स्टार्ट होता है, फिर उसके बाद आपकी कंट्री में रेगुलेटरी बॉडीज हैं या नहीं हैं, एंड देन हाउ इट स्टार्ट्स. सो एंड ऑल्सो व्हेन यू आर लाइक एज अ क्लाइंट, इफ यू आर लुकिंग फॉर अ थेरेपिस्ट, सो इट्स ऑल्सो इम्पॉर्टेंट कि आप अपनी पूरी सर्च करें कि ओके सो मैंने अगर एक साइकोलॉजिस्ट को अपने लिए डिसाइड करना है, सो वी लुक फॉर द कॉम्पिटेंसी देखें, एक्सपर्टीज देखें, क्वालिफिकेशन देखें, उनकी ट्रेनिंग देखें, उनका ईयर्स ऑफ एक्सपीरियंस. सो दे आर मल्टीपल थिंग्स एंड इफ़ यू एंड देन दे आर समटाइम्स एक इनिशियल कॉल भी होती है क्लाइंट्स के साथ. समटाइम्स कुछ साइकोलॉजिस्ट होते हैं जो कि आपको फर्स्ट सेशन जिनका ट्रायल होता है. सो देन यू असेस. सो अगेन इट्स जिस तरह साइकोलॉजिकल वर्क की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी आपने खुद लेनी होती है, तो इस तरह इट्स ऑल्सो इम्पॉर्टेंट कि आप थेरेपिस्ट, व्हेन यू आर डिसाइडिंग फॉर थेरेपिस्ट, तो यू टेक रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ दैट एज वेल. सो स्पेशली इन अ कंट्री जहाँ पे रेगुलेटरी बॉडीज नहीं हैं या डेवलपिंग कंट्री, डेवलपिंग प्रोसेस में है. सो इट्स दैट. इफ़ यू टॉक अबाउट लाइक यूएई में तो बहुत प्रॉपर उनकी रेगुलेटरी बॉडीज़ हैं एंड वो उनका बहुत थिंग्स आर वेरी मैनेज, बल्कि उनकी एक नहीं, उनकी मल्टीपल रेगुलेटरी बॉडीज़ हैं. सो दे आर 3-4 या 4 तो हैं उनकी, 4 रेगुलेटरी बॉडीज़. तो अगर आप कहीं एक से भी लाइसेंस्ड होते हो तो दैट्स फाइन. एंड देन दे टेक दैट देयर प्रोसेस. उनके अपने क्राइटेरियाज भी हैं कि आपकी डिग्री क्या है, ईयर्स ऑफ एक्सपीरियंस एंड एवरीथिंग. सो आई थिंक दैट्स very important for us to be mindful of our ethics, and it comes with our training. and other than that, for the client, on the part of the client, it's also important कि वो अपना पूरा they do their work. And because आजकल तो आहिस्ता आहिस्ता ज़्यादा होता जा रहा है स्कोप साइकोलॉजी का भी, एंड मेंटल हेल्थ अवेयरनेस भी काफ़ी ज़्यादा होती जा रही है. सो पहले के कंपैरिजन, आई एम नॉट सेइंग इट्स ईजी टू फाइंड अ कॉम्पिटेंट थेरेपिस्ट, पहले के कंपैरिजन में शायद थोड़ी सी चीज़ें आसानी की तरफ जा रही हैं, बट स्टिल यू नीड टू डू योर वर्क. लाइक आपने अपना होमवर्क पूरा करना होता है, एंड देन यू विल बी एबल टू फाइंड इट. एंड स्टिल व्हेन यू आर इन द सेशन, इफ़ यू फील कि अच्छा you don't feel right about a specific therapist, you always have the right to withdraw, withdraw or switch. Or so there are few things that I wanted to highlight about the जो practices में जो हमारे main principles होते हैं, like the confidentiality.
That's what I was gonna ask, क्या है?
Exactly. So that's like one is confidentiality. If you are not feeling कि आप whatever you're discussing with your therapist, if it's not confidential, if it's not remaining between you and your therapist for any way, अगर आपको लग रहा है, so that's one red flag. Sometimes होता है कि the therapist जो कि initially जो बहुत seasoned psychologist नहीं होते, like जिन्होंने initially अपनी practice start की हुई है, तो they are under supervision. तो अगर if they tell you कि we are under supervision and we will discuss your case for our conceptualization to provide better care to you, that's fine. It's okay. Until unless they are not revealing your identity, वो आपकी कोई ऐसी पर्सनल इन्फॉर्मेशन नहीं रिवील कर रहे जिससे आपके बारे में पता चल जाए कि who are you, like your name. So that's fine. Other than that, अगर if you feel कि नहीं कहीं और डिस्कस हो रही हैं या anything, so I think that's a red flag. The second thing I basically is if you feel, if in any way if you feel that because हमारा वो ethic principle में है कि there's no harm, right? So no harm means that if you cannot do anything good for the client, just don't do anything bad. Like it comes under the competency कि अगर आप इस चीज़ में competent नहीं हैं, तो आप अगर कुछ अच्छा नहीं कर पा रहे clients के process के लिए, तो फिर आप you refer to someone else and you don't do it. So it's that, but what happens is it's a bit complicated in a way कि client को पता नहीं चलता कि ये क्या हो रहा है. Exactly.
If it's working or
if it's working or not. But you should feel respected. जो भी psychologists हैं, so they respect how you go about your process, and they make you feel comfortable about your process, and it's your process. A psychologist should not impose anything on you. So if you ever feel कि अच्छा ये तो थोड़ी सी imposition आ रही है, this is something that I don't want but I'm still forced to do it, no.
Okay.
Right. So there are few things that you keep in your mind, and other than that, I think that when you are in a therapy, so आपको आपकी एक gut feeling भी होती है अपनी. So I always I always feel कि this is important that you go अपनी gut feeling पे कि if you feel right about a specific psychologist or a therapist, yes, go with that therapist. If you don't for any reason, so no, it's a big no, because if you are not comfortable with that, बेशक वो जितने भी competent हों,
what's the point, right?
Exactly. अगर आपका उनके साथ वो therapy वाला वो client therapist वाला relationship नहीं बना, rapport नहीं build हुई, so the therapy will not work. You will not be comfortable telling about yourself to that specific therapist. So I think these are a few things that you keep in your mind, and if you feel कि नहीं यहाँ पे कुछ गड़बड़ है and these are the red flags, तो फिर आप you just switch or and also it happens कि sometimes clients come to us तो वो कहते हैं कि हमारा वो previous experience अच्छा नहीं था, तो we are still unsure about it, and it's a very valid concern. अगर आपका एक experience ठीक ना हो जाए तो आपको दूसरे के लिए भी डर लग रहा होता है कि पता नहीं ये ठीक होगा नहीं. And I think this is very it makes things very complicated clients के लिए कि आप किसको choose करें and आप किस पे trust करें
and especially because people are being so vulnerable in their therapy.
Exactly.
अब बार-बार नए इंसान के साथ जाके open up करना और अपनी इतनी अपनी सारी walls गिरा के इतना vulnerable होना, like
no, it's very difficult. And फिर आपका experience भी अच्छा ना हो for any reason.
Yeah, and then next time you'll find it more hard to be open and
exactly. तो वो जो आपकी anxiety होती है ना पहले से ही therapy में जाने की, वो आपकी और ज़्यादा हो जाती है. So it's very like it's normal to feel this way in such scenario.
Yeah.
But what the client can do is again कि वो अपनी, it's okay if they had a bad experience with any psychologist. I like it's not it's okay का मतलब ये है कि they can try with any other therapist as well. Like they can give this space to themselves कि अच्छा चले हम we can try again. Because it's still better than not trying.
Yeah.
And उसी experience के साथ रहना and उसी thoughts के साथ रहना and then because वो आपकी lifeline फिर चलती रहती है, वो बुरा experience आपके साथ चलता रहता है. And again it's important कि you do your homework, आप लोगों से पूछें, you ask around your friends, आगे पीछे आपको कहीं ना कहीं आपको कुछ ना कुछ पता चल जाता है कि अच्छा कहाँ पे ethical practice हो रही है. And I think आजकल तो social media की वजह से बहुत कुछ बुरा भी होता है but I think social media की वजह से काफ़ी चीज़ें अच्छी भी होती है.
Yeah.
So you pick those things and then you see कि अच्छा मुझे यहाँ पे जाना है अपने comfort के हिसाब से. So these are a few things जो कि हम इस तरीके से help कर सकते हैं. Other than that, just trust your process. I think because everyone has a different process.
Yeah.
So if you trust your process and if you if you feel कि अच्छा होगा, if you stay positive with that, eventually things start getting better. I'm not saying कि बस
basically if you don't have faith that things will get better then they won't, right? You have to have that faith.
Exactly.
Because वो faith के साथ ही willingness आती है ना to change.
Exactly.
So for example, if you have no faith in the therapy that you're taking, right? So whatever your therapist is sort of trying to help you with, you're not going to put in the work.
Exactly.
It's as simple as that कि अगर आपको किसी चीज़ में belief या faith नहीं होता, आप उसमें effort नहीं डालते. जब आपको पता हो कि हाँ this is going to work, then you put in the effort.
Exactly.
So nothing is more important than having a mindset that is
true. Exactly.
Can do and will happen.
And it's openness. If you are open towards accepting and accepting the therapy, then it will work. If you're not open, if you feel कि पता नहीं होगा नहीं होगा, जाऊँ ना जाऊँ therapy में क्या करूँ, तो वो आपका ब्रेन उसी लेवल पे रहेगा, उसी चीज़ में ऑक्यूपाइड रहेगा. बट इफ़ यू आर ओपन टूवर्ड्स योर प्रोसेस एंड ट्रस्ट योर प्रोसेस एंड बिलीव इन योरसेल्फ दैट इफ समथिंग, God forbid, if something comes up that I feel that I can't handle it, but still I can handle it.
Yeah.
Because in therapy there are a lot of things जो कि आती हैं and then you feel like I can't take it. I can't handle it. ये कैसे होगा? But if you believe in yourself. And I'm not saying कि ये खुद से आ जाता है. Sometimes it takes effort. कि you start believing in yourself. But once you do it, I can take it, whatever comes up in the therapy. So eventually things do get better.
Yeah.
So that's what I believe.
Okay, Laila, is there anything else that you have in mind that you want to share with us, talk about?
I think I just wanted to, there was something that I mentioned that कि social media जो है वो उसमें बहुत सारी अच्छी चीज़ें भी हैं, लेकिन हमें पता चल जाता है कि कहाँ पे क्या चीज़ है एंड किस तरह हम रीच आउट कर सकते हैं एथिकल थेरेपिस्ट को. सो आई थिंक there are few pages and so जहाँ पे हमें एथिकल थेरेपिस्ट का, कॉम्पिटेंट थेरेपिस्ट का जिनके पेजेस हैं, so if you think that would be beneficial, maybe I can let you know about those pages. And then you can however you feel. Exactly. However you feel, maybe you can add them so that more people know about ethical and competent therapists.
Right.
That's what and more people, the people are more comfortable in reaching out to them, and they get a safe space, to talk about their vulnerabilities and their whatever they want to talk about.
So you can send me the pages or the links and we can add them in the description for you guys.
Exactly.
इस podcast के नीचे जो description है उसमें they can access the
maybe
links.
you can do that. Exactly.
ठीक है, that's all, I guess.
Yeah, that's
Right.
all.
Thank you so much, Laila, for sharing all this with us. Very insightful, very helpful. Thank you for listening to this podcast. I hope that there's something you learned from it, something that could help you in any way, something that impacted you in a way that could bring some kind of positive change for you. Please leave your questions, comments, thoughts in the comment section below. I would love to read. And let me know how this conversation impacted you and what you learned from it as well, because that really helps me keep going, you know, कि अच्छा फ़ायदा हुआ किसी को. And also don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you again next time. Allah Hafiz.